Good afternoon, everyone. Hi, I'm KD here, and I'm so excited to have you all here for today's webinar on the Supplementary Retirement Scheme SRS. Now, it looks like most of the sign-ups have already joined us here, so I don't want to waste a second. Let's get started. I believe as we approach the end of the year, many of us are talking on topics like how many months our year-end bonus will be, where to go for year-end holiday trips, and of course, how we can happily earn a high income and receive good bonuses while still can save on tax. So you have made a very smart choice by showing up here today. So now it's time to plan for tax. So through strategic planning, we actually can reduce the amount of tax we are paying and direct those savings towards our future use. So it's just like moving your money from one pocket to another. So that's exactly what SRS is all about. And I personally has done the calculation. So an average person leaves hundreds, if not thousands of dollars on the table every year because they don't take full advantage on SRS. But today I'm here to change that for you. If you are not familiar with the SRS yet, so I hope by the end of today's session, you can have a clear understanding on whether this is the right tool for you to secure a better financial future. So I personally has helped hundreds of individuals like you to plan for retirement and maximize your savings. So by applying just a few key strategies, you actually can save up to 50% of the taxes and set yourself up for a stress-free retirement. So before we dive in, so I want to make a quick disclaimer as well. So today's the information in this webinar I'm sharing is only for informational purposes and it doesn't constitute any financial or tax advice. So I've ensured that everything is up to date as of 2024, and I always recommend you to consult a professional for personalized advice before making any financial decision. Now let's take a look at what we will cover for today. My objectives for today's sessions are to give you a valuable insights into how SRS can work for you. So by the end of this webinar, you will understand the background of SRS, gain a clear understanding of why this scheme is exists and how it can benefit you. You will also learn the mechanics of SRS. I will break down how it works in simple terms so you can immediately see how it applies to your situation. We will also explore on some financial solutions for tax savings and retirement. So I'll be sharing some strategies that can help you to save on taxes while building a more secure retirement. Last but not least, I will address frequently asked questions at the Q&A. Ask questions? Not sure if you all are aware of this. So by 2030, 1 in 4 Singaporeans will be over 65. This makes retirement planning more critical than ever. So every time I mention that Singapore is facing an aging population problem, so many people will think like it's not my problem. I used to think that way too. But here's the thing. I'm a big fan of McDonald's and I often see elderly people working there. So the oldest auntie I've met at my neighborhood McDonald, she's 69 years old and she's still physically fit, walk around serving food and cleaning table. So now this got me thinking, I'm in my 30s. Are we really prepared for what our life will look like as we age? We can't control when we will die, but what if we live much longer into 90s or even hundreds? Like statistically, it's more likely than we think now. So are we planning for the possibility that we might need to work into 70s or 80s due to financial pressure? So because a lot of us overlook the importance of retirement planning. So as it suggests of the name, Supplementary Retirement Scheme, so the SRS is a key part of Singapore's strategy to address the financial needs of our aging population. So the government introduced the SRS in 2001 to help Singaporeans to plan for retirement. Now many people get confused and think that it's the same as CPF, but actually it's different. So SRS is actually private managed, not government controlled. So unlike CPF, which is compulsory, SRS is voluntary. So you can contribute as much as you want to enjoy the tax relief. There's a cap. So you can contribute as much as you want at your own discretion. So your SRS funds can be invested as well. So this gives you the opportunity for potential higher return to grow your wealth and ensure a more secure retirement. The best part is your contributions are tax deductible. So this help you to lower your taxable income and save on the taxes, whether it's hundreds and thousands. How much we can contribute to SRS to enjoy tax relief? So as the table shown here, the contribution rates different for Singaporeans and PR compared to foreigners. For Singaporeans and PR, the contribution rate is 15% of the absolute income base of $102,000 with a contribution cap of 15,300. So for foreigners, the contribution rate is higher at 35%, giving them a cap of $35,700. So for foreigner, the rate is higher because foreigner don't have the extra 20% of CPF contribution that Singaporeans and PRs do. So how to open an SRS account? So as long as you are a Singaporean, Singapore PR, or a foreigner who is working here, you are 18 years old and older, not an undischarged bankrupt, and mental capable of managing your own affairs, you can open your SRS account with one of these three local banks: DBS, UOB, or OCBC. So it's important that each individual can only have one SRS account at a time. It's just like our insurance integrated shield plan, you can only have one with one insurance company. However, if you are not happy with your current bank services, you always can transfer the SRS funds to another bank and open a new SRS account with them. So there will be charges for this. So the charges will be determined by the bank itself lah. So be sure that to check with the bank's schedule for fee. So just remember, you can only have one SRS bank at a time. As you might have seen this news this March, that the government actually plans to raise the retirement and re-employment age to 64 and 69 by 2026. So why is this so important? So as the retirement age increase, the penalty-free withdrawal age for the SRS account also change. So we need to know that the penalty-free withdrawal age for SRS account is determined by the date of your first SRS deposit. So if your first SRS deposit was before 1st of July 2022, you can withdraw your savings without penalty at the age of 62. If your first SRS deposit was on or after 1st of July 2022, your penalty-free withdrawal age is locked in at the age of 63. So if you do not have SRS account yet and you plan to open an account and deposit $1 into the account now, your penalty-free withdrawal age has already set at 63. And soon, the penalty-free withdrawal age will increase to 64 in 2026. That's why I encourage you to make your first SRS deposit soon, even if it's just $1. So please share this knowledge with your family and friends and get them to open an account as soon as possible. So even if they do not have a lot of money to contribute right now, it's still important to lock in the penalty-free withdrawal age so you can ensure to have more flexibility for future retirement planning. So if you haven't opened an SRS account yet, now is the perfect time to do so. So you also can stay with me through today's webinar. I will share some exclusive perks and promotion currently available if you are planning to open or top up your SRS account. How the SRS works. So when we plan to use SRS, we need to know that actually SRS is a tax deferral scheme, so not a tax exemption scheme. So this means that when you start withdrawing from your SRS account after reaching the penalty-free withdrawal age, the amount you withdraw will still be subject to tax. However, it's only 50% of the withdrawn amount is considered taxable income. So for example, right, if you withdraw 100,000 from your SRS account after reaching the retirement age, only 50%, which is 50,000, will be subject to income tax. So this is a key distinction between CPF and SRS. I believe like a lot of people are quite confused within these two categories. So SRS, unlike CPF, okay, CPF contribution withdrawals are tax exempt. Okay, SRS withdrawals are partially taxed. Okay, so CPF allows for tax relief if you top up for yourself or your loved one. Many considerations need to be taken into account because if you top up your CPF, the funds cannot be easily unlocked. It means that the funds you cannot withdraw easily. So given the complexity, right? So it's important you seek personalized advice based on your specific situation to make the most informed decision if you want to top up your CPF or do SRS. So for SRS, there's this 10-year withdrawal period after retirement age. What it means? So once you reach the statutory retirement age, you are allowed to start withdrawing your SRS account. But very interestingly is there's this 10-year withdrawal period that begins from the date of your first withdrawal after reaching your retirement age. So let's say now the statutory retirement age is 63. So if at 63, you are still working and do not need the funds from the SRS account yet, you don't have to withdraw them immediately. Okay, you can delay the withdrawals until later. So for instance, if you choose to retire at the age of 68 and make your first SRS withdrawal at the time, so there is this 10-year withdrawal period will start from 68. So this means that you can withdraw the funds over the next 10 years up to 78. Okay, so the key point here is that while you have these 10-year windows for withdrawal, right, you are not required to withdraw all at once. So you do not have to withdraw everything within this period. So you can have the flexibility to choose like on how you or when you want to access your SRS funds based on your financial needs and retirement plans. So let me show you an illustration to better explain this point lah. Okay, so let's say there's this client named Jay. Okay, so he opened his SRS account last year. So for now, the statutory retirement age is 63. So which means Jay can start withdrawing from his SRS account penalty free from 63. So let me draw a timeline and make it clearer here. So at the age of 63, Jay can begin withdrawing from this account. However, if he's still working and doesn't need the money yet, he can choose to not to withdraw anything. Okay, so now let's say at the age of 65, Jay decides to make his first withdrawal. So once he makes the first withdrawal, he will have the 10-year window to continue withdraw from SRS account until the age of 75. So for example here, Jay withdraw 50,000 at the age of 65. Only 50% of the amount is subject to tax. This means that the amount subject to taxation, right, will be 25,000, not the full 50,000. If Jay is not earning any income from other resources, right, then the amount withdrawn from his SRS will be his total chargeable income for the income tax purposes. So now, what happens if J doesn't manage to withdraw all his funds at the age of 75? So the SRS account, right, will deem to close at 75. It doesn't mean that it close now, okay? So it means that the account will consider closed for the tax purposes only. So if there's a still balance left in the SRS account at that time, okay, it could be the form of like insurance or investment. So for example, if J has an endowment policy in his SRS and hasn't matured yet, then the insurance company will provide the surrender value of the policy at the age of 75. Okay, if J has other investment in the account, say that like investment with the banks, then the banks will check the market value at that time, okay, and calculate the total balance in the account and report to IRAS. So IRAS will do one final taxation on the remaining balance, charging 50% of the total balance. So to recap, if you have an insurance policy in your SRS account, hasn't matured by the end of 10 years withdrawal period, so the SRS operator will liaise with the insurance company to determine the surrender value. So if for investment, we'll take into account the market value. Okay, so after this final taxation, right, IRAS will not tax the SRS account afterwards. Okay, so SRS is unlike CPF, where once you top up your CPF account, you cannot withdraw the funds until retirement. And even until retirement, you also cannot withdraw, right? So the SRS give you more flexibility on doing this. You actually can withdraw from the SRS account at any time. But do note that if you choose to withdraw before the statutory retirement age, based on your first contribution date, 100% of the sum withdrawn will subject to tax. So to clarify, right, if you have withdrawn after the statutory retirement age, only 50% of the amount will be taxable. So if you withdrawn before reaching the retirement age, right, not just 100% of the withdrawn amount will be taxable, there will also be a 5% penalty for the premature withdrawals. So give you an example. If you withdrawn 100,000 from the SRS account before reaching retirement age, let's say the age of 40 or 45 due to an emergency, 100% of the 100,000 will be counted as your total chargeable income, okay, of the year. So in addition to that, right, 5% of penalty, which is amount of 5,000, will be deducted by the bank SRS operator. Okay, so this is important to remember that the penalty-free withdrawal age, right? However, there are some exceptional circumstances whereby the 5% will not apply. So this include like death in the event of death, okay, or medical grounds, for example, like terminal illness, physical or mental incapacity, or bankruptcy, okay, if the individual is declared bankrupt, okay, and for foreigners, there are certain conditions applied for foreigners to avoid this penalty. So for foreigners, they must have maintained the SRS account for at least 10 years from the date of the first contribution. So if they wish to withdraw the funds without incurring the 5% penalty, right, they must withdraw the amount in one lump sum. Okay, so this too is quite understandable because foreigners may not want to stay in Singapore until their retirement, and they may not want to have a long-term retirement plan here. So the government allows them to withdraw everything without penalty, okay, provided they have met the 10-year requirement. So SRS does offer attractive tax savings opportunities, but there's a key regulation to keep in mind as well. So based on current rules, the maximum tax relief you can enjoy each year is capped at 80,000. So if someone hasn't contributed to SRS account in a given year, or they don't have any SRS account yet, they will need to file their income tax by the mid of April. Okay, suppose you do not have SRS contribution. So imagine your income is 100,000 and you calculate your personal income tax relief. Like some of the common tax relief include like the working mom child relief, CPF top up, for NS men's wife and parents, the MIG levy relief. Okay, so let's say your total personal tax relief is 30,000. In this case, IRAS will calculate your taxable income by subtracting the tax relief. So is 100,000 income minus the 30,000 tax relief, leave 70,000 as your taxable income. Okay, so let's say you contribute to SRS. Okay, you earn 100,000 and have the same 30,000 in personal tax relief. Okay, but this year you also contribute 10,000 to your SRS. So with the SRS contribution, every $1 contribution gives you $1 of tax relief. So in this case, right, your contributions 10,000 to SRS, you get additional 10,000 in tax relief. Now, the taxable income will be calculated as 100,000 minus 10,000 of the SRS top up, okay, and minus the tax relief of 30,000 previously calculated. Okay, so leaving only 60,000 as the total chargeable income. So let's say we have this case study from Romeo. So first, let's look at Romeo. He earns 85,000 annually and enjoy 31,500 in personal tax relief. So if Romeo doesn't contribute to his SRS, here what happens. His chargeable income is calculated by subtracting his personal tax relief from his annual income. So his chargeable income is 65,000 minus 31,500, which equals to 53,500. So based on the tax bracket here, you see, for the first 40,000, the tax payable is $550. The remaining 30,500 is taxed at 7%, which comes to $945. So Romeo's total tax payable without any SRS contribution is $1,495. Okay, now let's see what happens if Romeo contributes. Okay, 15,300 to his SRS account. So with his contribution, his chargeable income drops to $38,200. So for the first 30,000, the tax payable is only $200. Then the remaining $8,200 is taxed at 3.5%. So it comes to $287. So Romeo's total tax payable with SRS contribution is $487. Okay, so you can see by contributing to his SRS, right, Romeo has actually saved $100 in the tax. So instead of paying $1,400 400 something, he only pay 400 something. Okay, so this is a significant savings that Romeo can use for something meaningful. I don't know, maybe for a short trip to Bangkok. Is that enough? Yeah. So let's look at higher income earner. So this gentleman, Edward, right? He earns $300 annually and has income 50,000 and sorry. So now let's look at another case study. We have this gentleman Edward who earns $300,000 annually and has 50,000 in personal tax relief. So if he doesn't contribute to his SRS, here's what happens. His chargeable income is 300,000 minus 50,000, which equals to 250,000. For the first 240,000, the tax payable is 28,750. So for the remaining 10,000 is taxable at 19.5%, which comes to $1,950. So his total tax payable without SRS contribution is $30,700. Now, if Edwards contributes $15,300 to his SRS account, his chargeable income drops to $234,000. Okay, for the first $200,000, the tax payable is $21,000. The remaining $34,700 is taxed at 19%, which comes to $6,593. So his total tax payable with SRS contribution is $27,000, okay, $593. Okay, so you can see by contributing to SRS, Edwards has actually saved $3,000, okay, in taxes. So just a disclaimer, this case study are just for illustration purpose lah. So if you are looking for tax advice, so you should seek your advice from your tax consultant. So when you reach your statutory retirement age, okay, so now imagine you have reached the statutory retirement age. You can start withdrawing from your SRS account, which without incurring any penalties. So let's take a closer look at how the withdrawal process works. So here, if you decide to withdraw a lump sum, says that you have 400,000 in your SRS account and you choose to withdraw the entire amount. So 50% of the withdrawn amount, right, will be taxable. So in this case, 200,000 will be taxable. So we can refer to the tax table, right? The tax payable would be 21,000. Okay, so based on the tax table for the first 200,000. So however, I need to let you know that it's very rare for the people to withdraw everything in one lump sum. So most of the time, right, you want to strategically plan for the withdrawal to minimize the tax. So planned withdrawal, right, is a way to reduce your tax burden and sometimes can even result in no tax at all. Okay, so it's always a good idea to consult with your financial professional regularly so to make sure that your plan is working for you and stays up to date with any changes. So next, let's come to this 10-year drawdown strategy. So one effective strategy is the 10-year drawdown strategy where you make your first withdrawal after retirement age, right? Then the 10-year countdown begins. You spread out the withdrawal over these 10 years. Okay, so this method has actually can help you to reduce the taxable income each year. So for example, right, let's say, okay, you also have 400,000 in your SRS account and you decide to withdraw 40,000 annually for the next 10 years. And since that 50% of each withdrawal is taxable, right? So you can see 20,000 is taxable each year. Okay, so if your chargeable income is 20,000 or below that year, you won't owe any taxes. You don't have to pay any taxes. Okay, as the first 20,000 of income is tax free according to the tax table. Right? So actually this strategy can help you to avoid taxes entirely as your annual chargeable income stays below 20,000. So if you are relying solely on SRS withdrawal, right, this method can be incredibly beneficial. So for SRS, what you can do with the funds. So there are a wide range of products you can choose through SRS account, including bonds, fixed deposit, currency, approved shares. Okay. So however, do note that only shares approved by the banks are allowed. Okay. If you want to opt for insurance, there are also like single premium plans are permitted. Okay. So it's always good that we can diversify our portfolio with the SRS funds as well. It's like kill two birds in one stone lah. You can save on the taxes, at the same time you can grow your wealth for your retirement. So how we can maximize our SRS funds? So now let's see how potential growth you can achieve by strategically planning with the SRS funds. Uh, so give you this example, Mr. Tan. Okay, he contributes 12,000 annually to his SRS account for 22 years. Okay, just acknowledge that SRS do give you a very minimal interest of 0.05%. So if Mr. Tan just contribute to the SRS account and leave it untouched, after 22 years, the total value would be around 200,000 and 64,000 after he contribute 264,000. Okay, so you can see there's just $1,000 in interest. So this is definitely not the ideal we want lah. Okay, so what on the other hand, okay, if Mr. Tan finds that there's an options that can give him about 3% annual return, the same 12,000 every year, right, will grow to about 366,000. So it's almost 100,000 and more in return. Okay, so if he's able to invest into something that's like with a 5% return, okay, his 12,000 could nearly to 462,000. So it's really important that to plan your SRS funds and invest wisely. Okay, whether you can go for a low risk options like endowments or higher risk choices like investment, if you leave your money uninvested, right, it's exposes to inflation risk. So before we wrap up, right, let's address some of the common questions that many people have about SRS. So for the first question is, how do you make a claim for the tax relief after you entitled because of your SRS contribution? Okay, so actually you do not need to make any claim on your annual income tax return. Okay, so the tax relief, right, will be granted to you automatically by IRAS based on the information provided by the banks. So when you open an SRS account, right, you'll need to authorize the SRS banks to provide this information to IRAS. So this can ensure that your tax relief is processed seamlessly without any further action required on your part. So for the second question, right, is do you need to withdraw all the SRS funds at the end of 10-year withdrawal period? Okay, so like just now we also emphasize a lot on this that actually you do not need to. Okay, so you do not have to withdraw all the funds at the end of the 10-year period. Okay, however, 50% of the balance of the remaining of the SRS account at the end of the withdrawal period, right, will subject to income tax. Okay, it's important that for you to plan your withdrawal strategically to manage the tax obligation effectively and make the most of your retirement funds. Now, if you want to find out more information, you can scan the QR code here, okay, to access the SRS booklet with more detailed explanation. So what are you waiting for? Okay, remember saving and growing your money is something you will never regret. So as I mentioned earlier also, I'll be sharing details about the current promotion on the SRS account openings and tops up. So I will personally reach out to you via text soon with more information. And if you have any question or want to discuss with me further, feel free to reach out. You also can book a slot to meet with me and discuss your retirement planning in more detail. I'm so happy to help you make informed decision that suits your needs and goals. So lastly, I really love if you can give me some of your feedbacks on today's session, which can help me to improve and serve you better. Your input is really appreciated. Uh, Come to the end of the webinar, I would really take this opportunity to thank you once again for joining the webinar today. I look forward to connecting with you soon and helping you to make your financial future something that you can look forward with confidence. See you around.